Hello, good afternoon. This is Jennifer from ZIA Be Well as we are showcasing the health and fitness local businesses. And we have had the pleasure of Mary Beth from Nourish Collaborative a couple of weeks ago, and I'm always happy to have her back. And she brought her colleague with her, Larry, who is a hypnotist. And I am very interested in already I feel calmer speaking to you just before we even turn the mics on. So I don't know anything about this practice, and I'm sorry, Mary Beth, I should say hello to you. How are you?
Good, how are you?
And I hope that Mary Beth can help us along too because she's worked with you, and, as I had said, I know she works with some pretty fantastic practitioners, because of her gift as well. And so, I just didn't know where to begin as far as your practice is concerned, Larry, and, how do you begin with somebody, like, to find out what their problem is really? Because I'm gonna be seeing you pretty soon myself.
Well, it's a good way to enter into it,
Yeah.
and I'm part of the Nourish Collaborative and
Yes.
glad to be part of a team of people who are diversified in what they do, and it makes it easier for me because sometimes people come in and they come for what they want, but they also kind of what they need. So they don't sometimes know what they need. They know what they want, but they don't know what they need. And we have a good group of people that we can refer someone to another particular
As
area
Mary
that
Beth
it speaks.
suggested you because you work as a
Yeah,
complement each other in
yeah,
your practice.
yeah, we do. But, it's just like it starts off that people come in and I'll take it from somebody who doesn't know anything about hypnosis, but they heard from somebody else about hypnosis and they kind of want to try it only because they've tried everything else. And that's the same thing with me. I used to have anxiety, panic attacks, and irritable bowel syndrome. And I tried a lot of things. I tried medication, but medication just doesn't work for me too well.
Right.
And so one day someone had a little presentation about hypnosis and it intrigued me. And it was like, I never thought about my unconscious. I never thought about my subconscious. Consciously, it's what we think about every day. And usually we're repetitive in what we think about. We think about the same things every day. If we made a list, you'd find that we have the same feelings every day about something that we're experiencing. And it goes on every day until we change it. And that's like a mindset change. So when people come in, a lot of people think that it's a controlled environment, that I'm going to control them. Hypnosis is really a very sacred time because you're listening to the most important person to listen to, which is yourself. And the intention is to listen to yourself, heartfelt, intuition. We can put other words in there, spirit, soul,
Mm.
but they all come into this intuition of we already know the majority of answers that exist for us, but we don't listen to them. So when you come into a hypnosis session, who you're really listening to is yourself. You're being guided by the hypnotist who goes through the stages of an induction, which is bringing you to a trance like state. And people get scared about trance like states. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
I'm going to say I was too
Oh,
until
yes, of course.
yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So people do. But you go through it during the day many times.
For
For,
sure.
for example, let's say you're driving your car and you're going down the highway. You might do the radio, you might do phone, you might put lipstick on in the mirror, who knows? But you miss your exit. Why? Because you're in a state of hypnotal, which is called road hypnosis. And you're just driving along. Hypnosis is really about being focused. So you might see some things on television sometimes or in a movie about a pendulum or a pocket watch going back and forth. Look at a dot in the wall and look at it in a soft, dreamy way as though you're looking through that dot in the wall or space or something on that wall that catches your attention. What you're doing is you're slowing down the conscious mind and you're starting to get present in the moment, not caught up in a bunch of thoughts. By the way, all hypnosis is self hypnosis. I wish I could say I have magic up my sleeves. It is magical to be living in the moment, no question about it. It's magical to be able to allow the universe, and I'll use the word universe, to be able to have things come to you because everything does come to you. Believe it or not, everything we need is right here, but we don't see it. We don't hear it. We don't feel it unless we become grounded and centered with the most important person to actually listen to, which is ourselves.
Well, you know, it's funny because I mentioned to Marriott Beth, we were talking earlier about blockage, like, and it could be an organ and a muscle, but isn't that true of like, how you can say, well, what's my problem? You could actually help the person figure out what their own problem is without telling, like, have them figure it out themselves, kind of,
You can actually do a scan in your body, just
of
mentally,
yourself.
of yourself,
Yeah.
and actually find an area. And you might think, by the way, it's imagination, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, well,
I,
open that imagination and
yeah.
let that imagination roll.
But you know how you realize you're like, "Well, I didn't realize that was bothering me," that type of thing, and would that hypnosis help figure out, "Oh, that's your problem," and it's only your own self, you
Well,
know?
the American Medical Association has come out and stated publicly that 80% of our disease is caused by stress and anxiety. So if we get to a point that we can just all of a sudden sit down, and you don't have to be sitting, but I'll say sitting down, and begin to let go of the conscious mind, focus on your breathing, because the breathing actually is your power source. You can go days without sleeping. Don't recommend it, of course. You can go days without eating, unless you're on an approved fast. I don't recommend that. But you can only go minutes without breathing. I just
Mm,
want to put a reference to it. That's how important your breath is. It feeds every part of your body the oxygen needed. And what happens is that as you begin to relax and as you begin to let go of the conscious mind, you can relax your whole body. And you'll find that people come in who have pain, all of a sudden don't feel that pain so much. They might feel it. On a scale of 1 to 10, you ask them where it is, and they'll say 8 or 9. And by the time you finish that session, they might say, well, I forgot about it, or it's a 1 or it's a 2. Now, will that happen to everybody? No, because
mm,
sometimes you need more than one session to be able to have someone learn how to relax. You can snap your fingers, and for some people, they will. They'll go into a relaxation. And for others, they don't want to be controlled. So the whole idea is that what's really controlling them is themselves. They just need to learn how to let go of what's controlling them. Because if you need to be in control, that means something's controlling you. I don't need to be in control of today, sitting here with you. There's a mic in front of me.
but it's
I'm
a choice,
relaxed. And
though. It's a
it's a choice I made. Yeah.
yeah.
But that's a choice that everybody needs to make for themselves. I tell people you're going to wake up every morning and there's a gift box at the foot of your bed. It's your choice to whether you open that gift box. But when you open that gift box, you'll find a paper inside. The paper is something you wrote. It's a page from your future self of how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, what you want to have happen to yourself. And that's called manifesting. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't make a plan, then you're going to go into autopilot and you're going to be, watch this, in a trance like state, living your life on autopilot without being grounded and centered. But when you're grounded and centered, that's where the magic comes in. Things happen to you. You don't realize it, but you change. When you go to talk to someone, the stress isn't in your eyes or on your face. You're not in fear. And if you're not in fear, the other person senses that and they're not in fear. But you can put someone in an argumentative mode only because you're looking at them and they're looking at you and they're sensing, and we do sense each other. Just like animals do. Okay.
So
They're
most of
sensing.
it's fear. I feel like most of it's fear
Fear is
that
a lot.
causes a lot of these problems,
Fear does cause a lot of
which causes
problems.
anxiety, which causes pain. I feel it's all connected.
Fear,
That's my yeah,
judgment,
yeah,
self-talk,
yeah.
all of that
Self-doubt.
combined. Self-doubt.
Self-doubt. Well,
Yeah.
judgment, I don't know. I don't feel like I judge people. I'm saying like some of it, I know a lot of people, I don't think they're judging, but I think they're fearful. And that's why they behave a certain way,
It,
And you're like, is it fear? Are they just a mean person? No, it's fear. And then they don't know how to focus. And then there you are. And
one thing I
then
found interesting in the group work, you could say to a group, who was in fear today? Raise your hand. And you'll find that the majority of people, I really want to say almost everybody, but the majority of people don't raise their hand.
mm, mm.
I have fear. Am I going to get here in time? Ooh, am I going to get here in time? Is my
Right.
GPS going to be right? Is this
Right.
the right building or not the right building? I
Sure.
mean, it's a little fearful. Yeah, it happens throughout the day. And then there's some days
But
that
you
I don't
can
have
let
it.
that go because you got here. So
Yes,
so on the small that's just a small example. So I mean in everyday life, don't you find that most people's problems are fearful and that's where they come to you
I think
and
that
they don't realize that it's fear?
I think there's a lot of it that's
Yeah.
fear, no
Yeah.
question about
And
it.
they come to you for different reasons. They're like, wow, I feel relaxed. Well, that's because I was fearful of not
And
even of your practice, but of the everyday life. And they
and
don't realize it.
and where fear comes from is a projection into the future, and where that comes from is
Interesting.
being in the past.
Say that last part again, sir.
If you're projecting into the future, it's really about the past because how would you know it unless you've
Interesting.
experienced it? In other words,
Interesting.
if you know what lightness is, then you know what darkness is because the darkness isn't light. So you know the difference on it. But if I was to think about the future, I'm basing it on what I already know. If I want to think of the future as far as good things go, I'm basing it on what I know. And now you get into the that little circle of thoughts that where did that thought come from? And now you have association. That is associated with this thought, this thought, this thought, this thought. And I'll give you an example. People come to me because they want to find something out in their past, root cause of why something happened. So they tell me what the root cause is. I mean, they know what the root cause is. You know, they could have been abused at X amount of age. They may have fallen and hurt themselves and they're afraid of doing this. There could be 101 different reasons
Sure.
why. But they'll tell me why. Because I'll ask them, what do you think? And they tell me.
Why are you here?
Well, I do a
Really? Yeah.
past age regression, which takes them back to an early age in their life. I don't take them there, they take themselves there. I just provide the journey for them to be able to drop thinking and allow their imagination to come forth. And they'll go back in time, and all of a sudden, they'll find an incident that happened. In other words, I'll relate that to whatever pain they're feeling. And that incident is there. And when they finish, they'll say to me, and this is pretty much 99.9% of the people, they'll say to me, I never thought about that since that day.
Mm.
Example, woman having back pain, lower back pain. We did a past age regression. Turned out that she came on her bicycle riding along, saw her brother get hit by a car. And as that was all happening, it was riding a boy's bike with that bar.
Mhm.
She had fallen hard on that bar and hurt herself on her back. But she never remembered that until
Oh,
she didn't have it in her current memory until all of a sudden she had that session.
wow. So that was her trauma that blocked it
Yeah,
maybe?
we have a lot of, trauma in our life that we bury into the unconscious. Now, I use the word unconscious because most people will say subconscious, but I like to just bring this out. We have our conscious mind that thinks every day what we do, how we do it. We have our subconscious mind, and I say to people, "Well, how many windows in your bedroom?" They'll tell me, "And how many in your living room?" I want you to go out to the front door and take a look at your entrance door. What color is the door? And they'll tell me. I say, well, when you came in, you had no intention of talking about your windows or the color of your door. But that's all in your subconscious. It's all
Hmm.
filed in there. I say bedroom, you can pull out the number of windows, you can pull out the bedroom out of your mind. But I like to talk about an unconscious because we take billions of bits of information in. Everything we see, hear, taste, smell
Mm.
is in our unconscious. Example, how many times somebody smells chocolate chip cookies maybe and thinks of their grandmother?
Right.
Right.
Where does it come from?
Association.
Yeah,
Yeah.
association. So we have so many associations that we are living our lives being controlled by, but we don't know it because it's in our unconscious.
Mm.
And I could get off on the subject of dreams, but I'll only hold it for a little spot because I really
Yeah,
like dreams.
I
Okay.
imagine that's
So
pretty
when
deep.
people dream, they say, oh, it's just gibberish that came out of me. But it came out of you. So therefore it was in you. So what does it mean? And it's usually never what you think it means because it's a symbol. And I'll let that sit over here and I'll go back and I'll say that's the same thing with incidents that happen. You bury it, but they pop out. But I will ask, Mary Beth, what do you think of all that?
I think it ties into a lot of everything that we do
Yeah.
because even
Yeah.
we had talked about this before when, we how the body holds things
Right.
in the pockets of where we hold it. A lot
Yeah.
of times we're thinking it's from something else, but when you sit with Larry and it comes out that it's something that happened even, 20 years prior to what
Yeah.
you think the incident was, it's amazing to find out like really how much the body holds on to and how much our emotions take toll on our physical body.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting too because you guys both with your practices go deep, and I taught rehab fitness, and it was for many years, and it was just on the musculoskeletal level, nothing deeper, and it was always like, oh well, this just because this hurts in your hip doesn't mean it's your hip. You know what I mean? It's the psoas and the low back is could be the psoas and the gut and all that. And this is the muscles and the nerves ending. That's where my practice ends, and then you take it deeper from there. So it's interesting how just on a musculoskeletal level, how much that is just that. So I can imagine with your both of your practices, how deeper you can go even more so, because I always was taught even with the muscles, oh, just because your neck hurts, it's actually your pelvis that's out of whack.
Right.
And so that's what I learned with rehab fitness and kinesiology. So that's just like to me, that's the superficial end of it of the body,
Yeah.
even though, and so you're taking it. It's interesting that you said that because that's just what I learned on my silly little thing, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
well, I'm sorry, you were going to say something
yes.
there?
No, go ahead.
So, people sometimes walk into an office and they have a cold or they sneeze or they look like they're sick. All of a sudden, that person who's watching them starts to feel that their nose is running or they got a
Right.
scratch in their throat. They
Yes.
create that.
Yes.
Yes.
That's how powerful we are. I mean, that's really how
Yeah, isn't
powerful we
yeah.
are. We can create that to ourselves. So if we can create that to ourselves, why are there, let me reverse that a little bit. Let me put this out there first. Why are there so many successful people who can go through life easily and effortlessly and be successful at what they do?
Well, they don't worry about every little thing either.
Ah,
Because even that's fear, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get sick." That person sneezed, that's fear. I'm gonna get "Oh my gosh, I need a tissue with that vitamin C." And that's not the case. That doesn't mean you're gonna get sick. That was fear. The next person can walk in and be like, just roll their eyes and then not even sweat the fact that the person just sneezed.
you got it.
Well, that's where your self-talk comes into play though, because so much of your self-talk is feeding out what's manifesting. So when you have the time to sit and listen to yourself, you are now realizing the power of your own self-talk.
You know how many people out there, when we talk about self talk for a moment, how many people out there literally prostrate themselves and give out all their power to other people because, well, they need it and they asked me for that and I'm going to do this for them and yes, I'm going to go pick them up and I'm going to bring that person dinner or lunch and I'm going to do this for that and then all of a sudden they say there's no time for me.
Hmm.
I'm exhausted. I don't feel good, but I've got to be there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock as I said I would. They asked me and I would do that. Well, guess what? They're not listening to their own self-talk inside of what they're saying. I mentioned to you outside, I get a little dramatic sometimes when I'm working with people. I put a Post-it note on my forehead and I write WIFM. What's in it for me? And I'll tell you that the initial reaction always is a horrific look on their face. Maybe not everybody, but some people you can see it's just ooh, what a selfish guy he is. A narcissist, if ever. But
That's
the
what I thought immediately when you suggested that. I said, "Oh, I
yes,
wouldn't do that. That's selfish." And you were like,
yes,
"No, that's not what I'm saying." You
yeah.
know?
And we were raised to, or I was raised to give to others, be charitable,
Right.
do action, not just words. But guess what? When all of a sudden when I first learned what's in it for me, it meant I'm starting to listen to myself. Well, why do I want to do this for them? I don't want to do it for them. Should I do it? Could I do it? Yeah, I could, but I don't want to do it. But you have to listen to your body. What does your body feel like? What's going on with your body? Your body, even like muscle tension, you could read the body by just
Muscle
pushing on,
testing. Yeah.
yeah, on someone's arm. Thank you on that. It's testing, not tension. But we want them to put the tension on so that we can work with it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to people is that they give their power away. Now, Do I do things that I don't wanna do? Absolutely, no question about it, I do. But then why do I do it is because I wanna do it, because I wanna help this person, or I wanna go ahead and I mentioned drive someone into Boston at 5 o'clock on
Right.
a weekday. Do I wanna do that? No, I don't wanna do that. Will I do that? Yeah, because I want to drive this person to the bus station so that they can take a bus because 'cause they're not good at taking public transportation like subways, and I'll come back in traffic, and will I feel good about it? Of course I'll feel good because I
Yeah.
wanted to do that for that person.
Yeah.
Do I really wanna go into Boston? No, I don't wanna go into Boston, and that's what I mean by it. So you have to start listening to yourself, otherwise you're gonna cause disease, and that takes us back to the very beginning what Mary Beth had talked about in terms of what you hold in your body.
Mm.
You
Yeah, and I think I talk about boundaries a lot in healing, and we talk about it in grief because I think, so many people will say, well, everyone tells me I should get out and be social after somebody passes, or I should put myself around people. And it's like, no, you can say no. And it's okay to say no. And
Yeah.
you have to listen to yourself and know enough when you're putting yourself in a place that your body feels uncomfortable
yeah.
or, that's causing anxiety. You're losing that what's in it for me.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's really about it, about your body, how it feels. When you become in tune with your body,
Right.
you can live your life a lot better. I mean, I know that my body reacts, and I know instantly I don't really want to do this, or I need to look at it differently.
Right.
I need to be able to say a little bit more in depth of how did I get to here to where I didn't want to do it, and then you might find an association with something, and you realize, you know what, I can let that go.
Yeah. Interesting.
So WIFM, what's in it for me? And if anybody wants to question that or know a little bit about it, contact the Nourish Collaborative on that.
Yeah. Yeah. The Nourish Collaborative has a lot of different practices. There's something for everybody there.
And we go by first names. So Larry is mine. You can send it Larry, or you can do Mary Beth, or
Right.
if it's one which is grieving, I mean that's one that we have a specialty in that's there. And like I say, sometimes people come in and they come for what they want, but you realize after talking to them, and really that's the most important part. All of the work really is in the pre-talk, to where you're sitting down with someone and you're really listening to them tell you. And I think that's the most beautiful thing in the world when someone sits down and talks to you,
Mm.
because they're really, I look at it that they're talking from their soul. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some people who will just talk and it doesn't mean anything at all because they're not connected. But you can tell if a person's connected by how are they sounding? What are they saying to you? Are they
Do you
talking from their heart? Are they talking from their intuition? Or are they just talking from this conscious mind of data?
do you help people? Someone was saying that they choose to do this for weight loss as well, even as something, not, I know